Code Pink was counter-protesting against a group protesting the Iran nuclear agreement. They were shouting and carrying on, and Ted Cruz stopped to discuss it with them. Ted Cruz brought up some good points to counter this idea, namely that this would release many billions of dollars to Iran, and that this money would be used to kill Westerners. The Code Pink representative, who wasn't named, went on to say that it isn't just Obama and John Kerry who say this is a good idea. This Code Pink representative said the British, French, Chinese, Russians, Australians, and Jordanians are all saying this is a good idea. First and foremost, there must be internal dissent in those countries as there is in the USA. I'd certainly hope this is the case in the UK. Secondly, it is a logical fallacy to argue from popularity. This is discussed in basic logic classes. That something is popular doesn't mean it is valuable or beneficial. This is demonstrated often with sports fans on a daily basis in one sport or another. My sport has greater attendance, or my sport has more TV viewership, so it must be the better sport. The conclusion doesn't follow from the premises. Bullfighting has been popular, but its popularity cannot be used to conclude it is valuable or ethical. Gladiators once fought to the death in the Colosseum, and it was popular. All of the above countries are mistaken, including the USA and the UK. We have reincarnations of Neville Chamberlain running our countries. The Code Pink speaker goes on to say that the UN Security Council has even given its stamp of approval. That's the most obvious evidence that this is a bad deal. The UN, nearly since its founding, has proved itself to be anti-West, anti-American, and anti-Israel. They are corrupt, but far too few people realize that. This woman from Code Pink enjoys many freedoms in America, and these freedoms are not supported by the UN. It's a bit of an aside, but when the UN is taking America to task on human rights grounds for shutting off municipal water services to people who don't pay their water bills, when there are true atrocities in the world that the UN has been silent on for years. The Code Pink representative then goes on to say that this is the best deal we are going to get from Iran. How about this? We could actually leave sanctions in place or even toughen them. That is much better than dropping the sanctions when the Iranians will use it to fund terrorism and their nuclear program, and there is no verification allowed. The Iranians have won here. Just the idea that the UN can find anything is laughable. Does anyone remember Hans Blix? Ted Cruz went on to say to this Code Pink representative that truth matters. Cruz said that there is no ambiguity that Iran is developing nuclear weapons and that their leaders have said so. The Code Pink person said to Ted Cruz that this is absolutely false. This is an illustration of how the left ignores obvious realities and why it is so difficult to have a logical discussion with the left. Code Pink goes on to say that she trusts John Kerry and that we should verify that the Iranian nuclear program isn't operating. The only problem is that there is no mechanism in this agreement for true verification. Ted Cruz noted people holding up signs that said peace with Iran, and further said that Iran does not reciprocate those views. Iranian leaders do not want peace. If people really wanted peace, there would be no need for any negotiations. I'm sure Code Pink genuinely wants peace, but they can want all they want and still be disappointed because the Iranian leadership does not. This reminded me of something I read about in the years leading up to World War II. There was a ridiculous peace ballot in the UK in the 1930s. It was ridiculous because the questions were loaded. And despite that, those organizing the peace ballot declared that a majority of the UK voted for peace, it did not record the thoughts of Hitler and Mussolini on the subject. The Iranian thoughts have been recorded, and the Code Pink members should keep this in mind.